I mean, we were talking about it before. Everyone has always said to me, Peter, Asher, Billy, everyone said, every interviewer would say, what are you going to do after this is over in 2 years?
Yeah.
Right? They asked everybody, a year or two.
Yeah. Well, I packed up in 72 because I was pregnant with my daughter. And I also sort of like thought, well, I will take 3 years, 4 years off before she goes to school. I'll actually stay at home with this baby, because I didn't with Timothy. And when I packed the fan club up, you are left still with a lot of mail. And when I first got married, we didn't have much money, so the front room, it was empty. You know, the go-kart was in there, the pushchair, the pram. So I threw all the fan mail in there. And I still had hand-out photographs and records and autographs and things like that. So my husband was in a group, and so when he played and the kids were in bed, I would just go in the front room and take a few letters out, and then I gradually answered all those letters that were left.
So Freda ran the fan club, so every letter that got sorted, again, just like Mal and Neil were running the entire thing, the entire world is sending fan letters requesting autographs and pictures. How big a staff did you have?
In the beginning, there was just me.
One person right here. The Beatles fan mail from the world. Freda.
Yeah, but then I got a lot of help. You know, I employed, I had one of Ringo's cousins. I employed one of Paul's cousins. They were kids, so I paid them pocket money. My cousin went to school, so her and her school friends, they done work for me. I then got 2 full-time assistants and a part-time assistant. And then to even cut the mail down more, I made a secretary for each county in England. So if you came from Devon, I would ask you to write to the Devon secretary. So the area secretaries came under my wing, and the overseas secretaries came under my wing. So they got, you know, negatives, they got the demos, not the demos, they got, you know, the first pressing. So they got quite a bit, you know.
What was, of the requests, it was, I assume, mostly autographs and pictures and things like that. Everything we ever know about the Beatles, or we see even in the movie, every waking minute that they weren't writing or playing or, you know, catching a little sleep, they're signing pictures, they're signing autographs.
Do you know what? In the beginning, they were really good because, you know, they were around town, you know, they still lived at home.
Yeah.
They were just playing in England or around Merseyside. So groups normally don't get up till about 1 o'clock in the morning, in you know, lunchtime. So they'd come into the office in the afternoon, and I always had hand-out photographs around, you know, can you just sign this? Can you, while you're sitting there, while you're waiting to go into Epi, can you just sign that? But the best one really was George, because when I moved to Moorfields, I had a cupboard behind my chair, and I used to put the autograph books and precious things, you know, certain photographs the kids had sent in. So when any of them came in, I would get something out of the cupboard. And when George came in, he always used to say to me, what have you got in your cupboard? And also, you know, when people wrote in for autographs and they said, oh, I'm in love with Paul, you know, if next time Paul comes in, can I have his autograph? But if John came in, I'd get him to sign the autograph book. And I tried not to send letters. I would write on the back of a compliment slip. Paul didn't come in today, but John did. But you know what? One is better than none. So I just sent it out. I never got them back to say, didn't one is?
Yeah, no, I'm sure not. I'm sure not. So, you know, again, what you took away from Mel Evans, what this tight-knit family, it's more than just a business. You were so close because there weren't that many people. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you're friends with it. There's a couple of stories Freda told before, but I would love to share again. You know, she's loyal to the Beatles, right? But there was a show with the Moody Blues. Do you remember that? That instead of being in the Beatles dressing room, Miss Kelly wound up in Danny Lane's in the early Moody Blues dressing room.
Yeah, well, Liverpool, we didn't have a green room then. You just had backstage and the band room. And naturally I always went backstage to get them to do things and everything. And after the concert, I opened the door, and it was always full. It was chocker with Paul's relations, because he's got a load of relations in Liverpool. And I thought, oh, I'll come back. So I went into the Moody's, because one of my friends was going out with the drummer at the time. And I just stayed in there, and then I forgot, and you start drinking, and completely forgot. And then I thought, oh God, I better go in, to the Beatles. Anyway, I said to my friend, I'm just going next door, to see them. And I walked in, and there was just the four of them, everybody had gone. And as I walked in, John looked at me, and he went, where have you been? I went, what? He said, where have you been? I said, been next door with the Moody's. Oh, you've been with the Moody's, have you? And you're only showing your face now. And I said, well, I came before. No, you didn't. I said, I did. But I had drink down me then, so I could argue with him. And then he went, well, if you went in the Moody's, why don't you do their fan club? You're sacked. I went, what? He said, you're sacked. I said, am I? I said, right. And the other three were in the corner, half smiling. And I looked at them and I went, you three sacking me? And they went, we're not sacking you three. So I had the courage to stand up to them, and I looked at him and I went, you can do your own mail then, bye. And he went...
You combine Irish and Liverpudlian. And a Lennon says you're sacked. She says, do your own mail, and walks out of the room. That's the difference.
No, I stayed in the room. Because then when I said that to him, he said, I was only joking. I could tell by his face he wasn't. And I said, no, you weren't. And he went, I was, oh, please come back. And it was definitely the alcohol inside me, because I said to him, do you want to go down on your knees and ask me to come back?
Oh, you didn't. You asked John Lennon, get down on your knees.
And I have proof, because Richie remembers that. And he looked at me, and I kept eye contact.
Right, you held it.
I'm not giving up. And he went, well, one knee do. I went, go on then.
Excuse me, young lady, would you have the guts to do that to John Lennon? Tell him, get on your knees and beg me to come back? No, I don't think anybody in this room could have.
Oh, but you would when you had alcohol in you.
Even that, I'm not sure. But it's because they started like a group. They started like friends like this. And, John could be, from all the books, we know how mercurial he could be. But I asked Freda one story. One time, Epi, as she called him, Brian Epstein, got a newfangled machine called a dictaphone, where instead of verbally sending letters and writing it, he would record it. Do you mind telling that story? Because it tells you so much, all the things you read about John Lennon, this one story, between that and this, will explain who John Lennon is to me. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah, well, what happened, Epi went out, for lunch or something, and he gave me the tape, and there was only me in that day, the other secretary wasn't, and he just handed me the tape and said, can you do that, or something like that. And I stuck it in the machine, and I must have typed about, say, 3 letters or something, and it got stuck. And I didn't know what to do, wind it back or what, but Nell came in, as we call Neil Aspinall Nell. Nell came in, and I went, I've got this thing stuck and I don't know what to do and everything. Anyway, between us, I don't know who done it, between us, we pressed all these buttons and we wiped the tape clean. And I thought, shit, So I was panicking. Anyway, it was in Whitechapel and you had to get a lift up to our floor. So I heard the lift go then, I could hear it, and I thought, here we go, well, Anyway, he opened the door and he walked in. And he went, have you finished? And I went, no. I was like, no. And he went, oh. And I went, well, sorry. I said, I wiped it clean. He took off. He went, what? And I went, I'm sorry, And he went, you stupid girl. And he was like that. And next minute, there's this laugh. Oh, and occasionally he would call me Kelly. And just behind Epi was Johnny. Went, oh, Kelly, what have you done now? And then he started laughing. And when a Beatle laughed, Epi laughed. So he then started laughing and he said, well, you're going to have to stay behind and work late. I said, oh, well. So I didn't get the sack that day, but I could have done.
Right,
you know.
but John knew he was really mad, so he diffused it immediately.
Yeah, he started laughing and sort of looked at the funny side of it, and saved the day, saved my bacon.
Right, because you're part of the family. You were part of the team. And I'm going to save time for questions for you guys as well. The fan club ends, and did you think, okay, that this entire chapter of sort of me and the Beatles is done in my life, and this is not going to come back?
Yeah. When I left in 72, that was the end, and George said, you're going to come back, and I said, no, having this baby and rabbit, and I said, I'm 6 months at the end of March, which is the end of the financial year in England, and I said, so, the new staff can take over for the new year. And I said, because I've got staff in Liverpool, I can carry it on. And he went, so you're not coming back? And I went, no, I said, look, George, I'm going to have, 2 children, a husband, 4 dogs, 3 cats, I went, no. And he said, right, well, the fan club's going to end. And I said, no, it doesn't have to end. And he said, no. And I always remember the words. He said, Freda, you were there in the beginning. You're now at the end. But there's not going to be another official fan club. And there never was from Apple.
I understand how George felt. It starts with you. If you leave, it ends with you, because that's how it was. And I understand it. It could have kept going, but that wasn't the point for him.
Yeah, I'm still in touch with Apple a little bit still, and they send me certain things.
Good.
And one of the things, I got like a big lump in my throat the other week, because, the Blue album and the Red album came out again. Yeah. And they emailed me and said, do you want vinyl or do you want the CDs? And I said, well, I haven't got a record player now, I'll have the CDs. So I emailed them back and just said, thanks very much for sending me the CDs and everything. And they wrote back and they said, Freda, you're still family.
Oh.
So I got a big lump.
I've got a lump in my throat of you just telling us that. Another lump in your throat. You heard Now and Then.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me.
Well, I was asked to go to 3 different places, to hear it. Rogue's got a museum in Matthew Street, Beatles Story, and the Cavern. But I was actually going to Ireland, that night or the next night. And I thought, no, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to hear this myself, just on my own. And I was going to listen to it in the kitchen on the radio. But a cooker hood, I've got a flap in the kitchen when the wind blows, and I thought, I'm going up to the bedroom. So I put it on the radio up in the bedroom and listened to it. And it was more, not the melody, it was more the words in the beginning. I just loved it, But it also, I got quite emotional about it. I didn't whinge, I'm not a whinger,
That's a lovely term, isn't it? I'm not a whinger.
But, everybody assumes different things, and we all do that, and I assume as well. But I just think he was talking to Paul. I think, because I then started thinking when he wrote it, and I thought, well, Sean was only a baby, he was a house father then, maybe Yoko was doing her office work or whatever she did, and he's probably put Sean to bed, gone in, sat down and just started thinking about Liverpool or something. But I like to think it was that.
Me too. And what I've always said on the air, there's a cassette, and on the cassette were 3 songs, Real Love, Free as a Bird, and Now and Then. And Yoko gives Paul the cassette because on the cassette
it was Paul's name.
It says for Paul.
Yeah.
So you could, maybe it was for us, maybe it was for Freda, maybe it was for Cynthia or for Julian or for his fans, or for Neil or Mel, but it said for Paul. And again, you're not a whinger. I'm sitting in this office with the grand high exalted mystic rulers of iHeart Media in this room, and I had to sign an NDA before I could go in the room, and they played it, and I'm scream sobbing. I'm crying my eyes out. And everybody, all these execs kind of looked at it. I see them tear up, and they said, that's why we needed you here, to know that it was that. I said, it's how else can you interpret it? And I've said it, if you guys have listened, I know you have, I said over and over again, I don't know how, for the love of God, Paul McCartney got through working on that song. I mean, I know he told us, Ringo told the story that Paul said to him, let's pretend that John and George just went out for a cuppa, and we're finishing this. Because I don't know how he heard John's voice in his head and sang harmony with it.
Yeah.
It almost seems like, how did he, if I'm crying, how did you do it?
I know, but I just, as soon as I heard it, I wanted them to play it again, and I wanted them to play it again, just to absorb the words,
We listened to it. I saw the video that they made, and then I just started crying all over.
The video is great, isn't it?
I started crying all over again, and I know I'm crying like a little kid, but I had to go on the air. I had to go work. I had to leave the meeting early, and I said to all the big execs at iHeart, fourth biggest media company in the world, largest audio company in the world, and I said, guys, just to put this in perspective, here we are at a secret meeting, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to walk in this room for a band that last recorded in 1970 and a demo tape that was recorded over 40 years ago. And that's how important this little song is to finish. And for the there's always haters and critics, like anything for a buck, and Paul will do anything. So again, we never said, we played it on 800 radio stations across America at the same time. And we could have easily said, here's the last original song by the four Beatles, brought to you by Home Depot. Brought to you by, we didn't sell it. There was no ad. We could have made a fortune. We didn't sell it. The Beatles could have said, you want to hear it? Give us Apple could have said, give us $5. Nope, we're streaming it publicly. And if you think Paul McCartney needs that song to sell a ticket, then you have no idea who Paul McCartney is. He does not need marketing. He simply announces a concert. The first show in Adelaide, the first show in Australia, sold out
within 5 minutes.
Literally 5 minutes. I mean, it was a love letter for us, which is the other part that even chokes me up now. It's a love letter for all of us to have. And for you to hear it, yeah. So here we are now. You're here. You fly over to America. We're together at Abbey Road this past August for Billy J's 80th birthday and a new album. And we're hanging out. And I said to you, if you remember, can you believe we are here